Hey guys, welcome back to another installment of the Malaysian Motoring News Update. Now, you may or may not have noticed, I'm calling it the News Update now because I actually missed last Sunday. I was really caught up in a few things, so I wasn't actually able to film. Also, if you notice the background's changed, it's because the lighting in my apartment is crap, so I'm at a cafe about 10 minutes from where I live. So we're going to bring you a couple of updates that have taken place since we last had this discussion. And there have been quite a number of things, both locally and internationally, so I'm going to try and get you up to speed. So we're going to kick off with Proton, and they're quite happy to announce that they've received over 10,000 bookings for the Proton X70 SUV, which still hasn't yet been launched. Of that, 8,000 have been made up of walk-in bookings and 2,000 have been made up of online bookings. And this is really important because walk-in bookings necessitated a 1,000 ringgit deposit, whereas online bookings only needed a minimum of 99 ringgit. However, those who booked their cars online and paid the full 1,000 would have gotten an additional sort of gift pack, which also included a little model of an X70, which, if I'm not mistaken, will actually follow the spec of your car, which I think is pretty cool. So this is unprecedented levels of excitement around a model that hasn't even been launched yet, with prices that are still speculated at this point. And it's fabulous to see that the market is really reacting to Proton's new model. It says a lot about the technology, about the features that this car is going to come with, and just what that means for the market. Now, moving on to Perodua. This week they sent out a press release saying that they've reached a new milestone for their cars. They've sold, believe it or not, more than 500,000 EEVs, or energy efficient vehicles, which is an enormous achievement for Perodua, and it cements their position as the EEV leader. Of that number, based on some numbers that I've written down, it's made up of 75,800 MyVs, believe it or not, 130,800 Bezas, and 344,000 Axias. That is a fabulous number for Perodua. There's a lot of news coming from them right now. They're achieving really, really great things. But there's a little tidbit of information regarding a new Perodua model that we're going to get to a little bit later in this video. Now, we need to talk about international news now, specifically about the ongoing trade war between the United States and China. Now, I'm aware that this is Malaysian motoring and this usually doesn't really concern us, but this is kind of important because with US and Chinese trade tensions increasing, Volvo has had to shuffle around some of its production plans. When the S60 compact executive saloon came out, the idea was that this car would be primarily made in its Charleston, South Carolina facility and exported around the world. However, due to US market tensions and their insistent belligerence on picking fights with every possible market they can, Volvo is seeing that this might not be a viable solution. So instead of exporting the S60 from South Carolina, they're going to move some of the production to China in order to avoid some of the trade tariffs that are currently being placed, especially between the US and China. So the United States has placed a 27.5% tariff on vehicles imported from China, whereas China has slapped a 40% tariff on American-made vehicles exported to China. Can you imagine that? So as a result, they're going to have to move some production around. Now, this is important for us because we are currently unsure where locally assembled, or rather locally available S60s will be made. When the S60 came out, they were very, very insistent that the S60 would be made in South Carolina, which came as a surprise to us because we expected it to be locally assembled at some point, if not immediately. The United States and Malaysia don't exactly have a very warm relationship at the moment, so there's a possibility that they might want to circumvent this and work around it very quickly, but we're still waiting on word from Volvo Car Malaysia as to how they intend to plan around possible tensions that may erupt with the United States. We never really know what the current US administration is going to do, but I can imagine that the private sector is going to find a way to work around that as efficiently as possible. Now, let's talk about Geely. We're going back international again, but this has local relevance, I promise. So Geely has announced and officially debuted two new models based on its new platform. So we have the VX11, which is a 7-seater MPV, as well as the Bin Yue, I'm not sure, which is a compact SUV, broadly about the same size as the XC40, using the same platform as well. So the reason why these two cars are important is because Proton signed an agreement with Geely that they will be able to assemble the VX11, that's the MPV, and the SX11, that's the SUV, in Malaysia, which means that it's basically confirmed that we'll be getting these vehicles badged as Protons at some point in the future. So let's start with the SUV. Called the Bin Yui, it's based off of the Compact Modular Architecture, or CMA, that also underpins the Volvo XC40, a compact SUV that we like very much and are still waiting to review. Now, the Bin Yui also uses a power plant that debuted in the XC40. So it's a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine, which drives all four wheels or just the front wheels depending on configuration. Now, this is a car, because it's quite small, when it arrives as a Proton, it will slot beneath the X70 and also have a slightly more attractive price point as a result. But because it's built off of CMA, Geely has plugged all of the technological goodies that they can into it. So you have your adaptive cruise control, your autonomous emergency braking, LED lights, all that nonsense. You've got all of that in a compact vehicle. When they do debut as Protons, they will carry their own design language. So it'll be interesting to see what Azan Othman, the head of design at Proton, and his team will be able to work up on this little car. Now, perhaps more pertinently, we're going to start talking about the MPV. Now, the VF11 has been dubbed the Geely Jiaji. Please, I apologize if I'm getting that wrong. But we know that this car will replace the Proton Exora. It's getting a bit long in the tooth and it's starting to feel a little bit outdated, and Proton is desperate to try and find a replacement for it, and the Jiaji will be just that. The Jiaji has not yet made its full public debut, which means that some details are still a little bit sketchy at this point. It's very clear that it is bigger than the Exora that it will replace. It's longer, it's wider, it's lower than the Exora, and in China it's available as a 5, 6 or 7-seater, but of course we expect it to arrive exclusively as a 7-seater here in Malaysia. Now again, Proton will do what it can to the design and make it something that is unique to Proton, but the powertrains are expected to be shared across the Geely group, which means that you'll be getting things like turbocharged Drive E 4-cylinders, or perhaps even a 3-cylinder, an 8-speed automatic gearbox most likely, and it'll also probably be front-wheel drive. Now, what's important to remember with both the SUV and the MPV is that we don't have introduction dates, not even tentative introduction dates. Geely has said that they will introduce one car per year for the Malaysian market, and how that works out we're not entirely sure, because we already know that the X70, which hasn't yet been launched, will soon be followed by a facelift Proton Iriz, with some photos that we got from our friends at Fantastico. So we're going to get to that shortly. Now, for some uncle news. Toyota has confirmed, UMW Toyota Motor has confirmed that the Toyota Camry, the new Toyota Camry with its angry face and revised interior, we're very excited to see it, will be making its full public debut at the Kuala Lumpur International Motor Show, which is opening next week. So it'll be using Toyota's new architecture, new global architecture, TNGA. It will be using carryover engines and carryover transmissions, unfortunately, but at least we'll be very excited to see what TNGA means in the local context. Will it drive better? Will it still be kind of soggy and soft to drive? What technologies will it come with? And so on. We've covered quite a lot of this in a previous update, and we'll definitely link that down below for you to check out. But it'll be cool to see all the specifics around the Toyota Camry when that debuts. Now, on to some more upmarket news. Jaguar Land Rover Malaysia has announced today that they've introduced a new variant of its sleek and stylish Velar SUV. The new variant is the 3-litre R Dynamic model, and that uses a 3-litre supercharged V6 petrol engine, putting it naturally above the two earlier grades that came in at about 520-something thousand ringgit. This makes it the most expensive Velar currently available, but it also has the most desirable engine. So at 723,000 ringgit, the Velar is not cheap, not in any way, shape or form. Now, the Velar 3-litre is the most expensive Velar currently on the market. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 200,000 ringgit more than the entry-level with the 2-litre Ingenium petrol engine, but it does offer quite a bit of niceties as a result. You actually have air suspension on the Velar, a big boon for this car because it looks best on really big alloys, and when you have really big alloys, obviously the ride comfort is compromised somewhat, but with air suspension you should be able to control that. On top of that, you also have driver assist features such as autonomous emergency braking and intelligent cruise control, something that we expect to see in a luxury SUV, especially something that's commanding, you know, ringgit. And it's also got that lusty V6 petrol engine. Now, we're not sure if there will be a media review vehicle available, but we will be in touch with Jaguar Land Rover to try and make that happen, because we would love to spend some time with this car and tell you exactly why we think this is the best Velar that money can buy, and definitely better than something from Proton. Now, let's talk about some speculation or things to come. Proton might be making a lot of noise about the X70, which is expected to debut later this month or perhaps in early December, but we reckon it's going to be at KLIMS. But it seems that they are not focused entirely on the X70 because there have been spy shots kind of going around of people catching a heavily facelifted Proton Iriz making its rounds around KL. Now, the Iriz has been around for quite a while, and it's actually already received a mild facelift where it got, you know, a little bit of aesthetic changes, some kit updates, and some changes to the way the engines were mounted, for example, to try and make it all a little bit better. But while we dismissed the Iriz facelift initially as just an aesthetic update, it seems that there's a lot more going on underneath. So first, there will be a new grille. It'll use the headlights from the Persona. It'll change the alloys, it'll change the bumpers, the usual stuff. But it seems, according to someone who spoke to our friends at Fantastico, there is a lot more planned for what's going on under the skin with the Iriz. So one of the big issues with the Iriz that I felt, and quite a lot of people feel as well, is that the CVT automatic gearbox is really lackluster. However, it seems that, as Fantastico would put it, Risikan Mat Bond says that there will be a new Geely source transmission in the facelifted Iriz. Now, it's speculated to either be a 4 or 5-speed automatic. It seems very clear that it will not be a double clutch unit of any kind, and so this may increase refinement and usability quite a bit. If they manage to fit a 5-speed automatic in there, it'll be fabulous, because this is a car that we like very much for its dynamic capabilities, and a 5-speed automatic will only improve upon a package that we already like very much. But, you see, Proton is not the only one working sneakily on a new model. Perodua also has something going on, and again, it was Fantastico that brought this information to our attention. It seems that they have a new SUV in store, and unfortunately, I'm going to burst your bubble now, it won't be called the Kambara. It'll be based on the Toyota Rush, the new Toyota Rush, which debuted recently. It will be a 7-seater, just like the Rush, but it'll of course be a little bit cheaper. And the Perodua SUV will also carry a unique design language, unique to Perodua, and it should look something along the lines of what we saw initially with the Myvi. Now, it's coded internally as a D38L. It'll run the same 1.5-litre VVT engine that we saw out of the Myvi with its decent enough powertrain, and it'll offer a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic gearbox. Now, we're going to again go out on a limb and assume that this is only going to be front-wheel drive, because four-wheel drive is not really that popular in this market. It increases complexity for no obvious reason. The thing is, Fantastico's information wasn't just limited to some vague things. There were a few specifics that they managed to get out of their little birdie. So it seems that the car will of course have its own unique aesthetics to denote it as a Perodua product, and we expect it to look really good if the job that they did with the Myvi is any indication. The interior will also be different from the Toyota Rush. Again, the same thing with the Myvi, it carried a totally different interior from the vehicle that it was based on, and so we expect Perodua to kind of go the mile with this and really have a very uniquely Perodua cabin. On top of that, it'll be offered in 5 different colors, although it's hitherto unclear what colors those are going to be. It seems that the brochures have already been printed for this vehicle, and the dealers have already been given briefings on this car. Now, this is a move that companies usually take before they introduce the vehicle itself, so we're expecting it to make quite a splash very soon, perhaps even at the KL International Motor Show. The interesting thing is, a speculative price has also been revealed. It seems that Perodua intends to market this car between 75 and 80,000 ringgit, which puts it in the same ballpark broadly as the entry-level speculated prices for the Proton X70. It'll be very interesting to see how these cars duke it out, considering that they take a very different approach to what might be the same segment. It depends on the size of this new vehicle. We haven't seen it yet. Now, the car itself hasn't actually been spotted out in the wild yet, which suggests that final phase testing hasn't yet occurred, but it should be happening quite soon. So we'll definitely bring you spy shots as and when they come. Now, going back to the name, we were hoping, sort of, that it would be called the Kembara, because the Kembara was a very popular vehicle for Perodua. It gave Malaysians their first taste of off-roading capability, and the Kembara was a really, really good car for what it was worth. But it seems that the Kembara name will not be coming back. Checks with my IPO have revealed that Perodua has recently copyrighted a few names, such as Lasap, that's with a Q, Iriz, that's with a Z, Impacts with an X, and none of these sound interesting, and we hope that Perodua will find a better name than that, especially not Iriz. Let's not have a repeat of the Iriz, shall we? That is the end of the news. Now, there will be more updates later this week, hopefully, as more news comes out. And we are going to start calling this the news update instead, so that I don't have to do it every Sunday when I might be busy. But that's about it. If there's any more news, we'll definitely bring that to you as soon as possible. If you have any questions or any topics that you want us to explore, please let us know in the comments below. If you have any constructive criticisms, again, not about my hair, we are more than happy to listen to you, and we'll be able to integrate that somewhere into our videos, or maybe even give you a special update. Now again, if you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit the little bell icon so you're updated every time we upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you again soon.